Hello and welcome to Brass Reflections. It's great to have you with us. In this episode I'm delighted to introduce another guest to the series, a friend of Cambridge Salvation Army and somebody who grew up in our church. It's great to welcome Garry, a retired head teacher now living in Barnstaple, North Devon, a lifelong Salvationist and key musician. Incidentally, Garry's parents, Doug and Sylve, still attend the Army here in Cambridge and feature as numbers 1 and 2 on our Soldiers Roll. Garry has chosen to feature the beautifully crafted, ever-popular meditation by Darren Shaw, Guardian of My Soul.
Hello. Being asked to choose just one Salvation Army brass band composition is very difficult. Having grown up and continued all my life in the Army, I must have heard or played thousands of pieces. My Heart's Desire, Great and Glorious, In Perfect Peace, and The Light of the World are amongst my favourites, all based on songs we sing during worship, lyrics which tell of the love of Jesus. Many of these pieces I played with Cambridge Band in my formative years, when my dad and my granddad, uncles, cousins and future brother-in-law all played in the same band. But since moving to North Devon, my Army music making has been very different. Currently we have no Army band in our corps, although I am able to play in the divisional band and a local contesting band. Interestingly, both bands have in their repertoire Darren Shaw's meditation, Guardian of My Soul. When the contesting band first played it, during practice, there was silence when we finished. I remember one player saying, "Wow, that was different." A couple said they felt goosebumps on the back of their necks. There followed a discussion about the piece, and I was asked to explain what I thought it was all about. Darren Shaw, the composer, was about 13 when he wrote the original tune. It was a melody without lyrics. A decade later, the words of 1 Peter chapter 2, verses 24 to 25, inspired him to write these lines. "I worship you, God's only Son, who took my sins to the cross, so I could be completely free." Now, the Army published the entire verse, and that could have been it, except that people kept asking for more. If I were to say to Jesus, "I worship you," thought Darren, then surely I'll follow you, God's only Son. And this became the start of verse 2, which, like verse 1, ends with, "You know my name and where I'm going, Guardian of my soul." Sadly, for 6 years, Darren was very ill. He was bedridden and for part of this time, but he says the words and music of his song kept him going. And then, towards the end of his illness, he decided to write a band arrangement of the melody. And yet he felt compelled to use the lovely tune Aurelia as well. God has spoken to him many times through its words, "O Jesus, I have promised to serve thee to the end. Be thou forever near me, my master and my friend." And in fact, he used verse 3. "O let me hear thee speaking in accents clear and still. O speak to make me listen, thou guardian of my soul." The words of these two songs were his story. He wanted to serve God, as he had promised, but because of his illness, he had to stop being an army officer, and although he wrote in his own song, "You know my name and where I'm going," he didn't know what was going to happen at that time, although God did. And it wasn't long before Darren recovered sufficiently to once again serve God as an army officer. I hope you enjoy this piece of music, The Guardian of My Soul. It's very pleasant to listen to, and I can tell you it's enjoyable to play. Although I am sure the composer would agree, the music is only the vehicle for the words. Bill Himes said, "Every piece of music has a story, and Guardian of My Soul certainly has a story to tell." Darren Shaw wrote the band piece with his words interspersed with verse 3 of "O Jesus, I Have Promised," sandwiched in between. And unusually, all 3 verses, written by 2 different authors, end with the same words, "Guardian of My Soul." The composition just sat on his shelf for a long time until finally his wife persuaded him to send it to the Army Musical Editorial Board, which he agreed to do in the end. Now, on the day in question, members of the board started the day with a meeting during which they sang "I Worship You, God's Only Son," Darren's song. Afterwards, 2 members were talking and agreed it would be great to have a band arrangement of the melody. On returning to his desk, Dean Jones, one of the editorial team, turned on his computer, and astonishingly there in front of him was the composer's email with the band arrangement attached. A coincidence or a God incidence? When I was a boy, I used to sing trios with Paul and Martin Hindmarsh, who both went on to do great things as professional musicians. I sang a few solos when Cambridge Young People's Band, under Des Turner, visited other centres in London and the South East. "O Jesus, I Have Promised," to the tune of Aurelia, was one of the songs I sang. This is a lovely song which has a Cambridgeshire connection. It was written by John Bode, rector of Castle CAMSA, on the occasion of the confirmation of his children in 1889. Bode told his children that the hymn included all the important truths I want you to remember. Samuel Sebastian Wesley wrote the beautiful tune Aurelia, and he was organist at Exeter Cathedral here in Devon. It is a perfect musical match for the words. Who knows? Perhaps when the coronavirus pandemic finally comes to an end, Cambridge Army Band might go and play "Guardian of My Soul" in Castle CAMSA Parish Church, where John Bode is buried.